The economics of owning a superyacht can cost more than a mansion, more than a private jet, and sometimes more than an entire hotel. But the purchase price is only the beginning. Imagine wiring $100 million to buy a floating palace. You now own hundreds of tons of steel, engines powerful enough to move a small building across the ocean, multiple kitchens, luxury cabins, swimming pools, tender boats, helicopters, and a crew whose job is to keep everything working perfectly. And then something strange happens. The yacht starts costing you money every single day, even when it is sitting completely still. This is the part most people never see. Behind the champagne, exotic destinations, and photographs from Mediterranean marinas is an economic machine that can consume millions of dollars every year. So what does it actually cost to own a super yacht? Where does all that money go? Can a yacht generate income? And why would anyone buy an asset that can lose value while costing millions just to maintain? To understand the answer, we need to forget what a yacht looks like from the outside and follow the money. Start with the purchase. A serious super yacht typically begins around the tens of millions of dollars. The largest and most extravagant vessels can reach several hundred million. Some exceptional yachts have reportedly approached or exceeded the billion-dollar level when development, construction, and customization are considered. But unlike buying a house, purchasing the yacht is not the end of the financial calculation. It is the beginning. A wealthy buyer isn't simply purchasing transportation. They are purchasing an enormous private operation. Think about the scale. A super yacht might contain dozens of crew members, multiple guest suites, dining rooms, lounges, gyms, pools, entertainment areas, garages for smaller boats, and mechanical systems that have to operate reliably far from shore. Every one of those systems creates a cost. The first major expense is the crew. A large super yacht may require a captain, engineers, deck officers, chefs, stewards, housekeeping staff, security personnel, and specialists responsible for water sports, maintenance, and guest services. The exact number varies dramatically depending on the yacht's size and complexity, but a large vessel can require several dozen people, and these aren't ordinary household employees. The captain may have years of maritime experience. Engineers must understand highly sophisticated propulsion and electrical systems. Chefs may be expected to produce restaurant-quality meals for guests with almost no notice. Crew members also need to operate safely under demanding conditions. Once salaries, benefits, food, travel, training, insurance, and other employment costs are added together, the annual crew bill can become enormous. And that is only one category. Then comes fuel. A super yacht doesn't move like a family car. Its engines can burn enormous quantities of fuel, particularly when traveling at high speed. Even when the vessel is anchored, generators may continue running to provide electricity, air conditioning, refrigeration, water systems, lighting, entertainment, and other services. That means the yacht can consume energy without moving an inch, and the larger the yacht becomes, the more complicated the energy equation gets. Floating luxury hotel needs power around the clock. Now imagine taking that hotel and sending it across the Mediterranean. Fuel costs can quickly climb into the hundreds of thousands of dollars during active cruising periods, depending on the vessel, distance, fuel prices, and operating profile. But fuel is still not the biggest financial threat. Maintenance is a super yacht exists in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. Salt water attacks metal, engines wear down, paint fades, mechanical systems fail, air conditioning systems run constantly, electronics become obsolete, decks need treatment, plumbing needs repairs, navigation equipment requires servicing, and unlike a house, you can't simply call a repair company and wait until next week. The vessel has to remain operational. This is why the industry often uses a rough rule of thumb that annual operating expenses can amount to around 10% of a yacht's value, although the actual figure can be significantly higher or lower depending on age, size, crew, usage, location, and maintenance requirements. For a $50 million yacht, 10% would mean roughly $5 million a year. For a $100 million yacht, that becomes approximately $10 million every year, not over the yacht's lifetime, every year. Of course, this is an estimate rather than a universal rule. A carefully managed yacht used lightly could cost less, while an older, heavily used, or exceptionally complex vessel could cost substantially more. And then comes one of the strangest expenses of all. The yacht has to go somewhere. Docking a massive yacht in a prestigious marina can be extraordinarily expensive, particularly during peak seasons. Locations such as Monaco, Saint-Tropez, Ibiza, Miami, and other high-demand destinations have limited space for large vessels. Owners aren't just paying for a parking spot. They're paying for infrastructure capable of handling a floating structure that may be longer than a football field. Then there are port fees, customs, permits, waste disposal, water, electricity, security, and local services. The yacht can also spend money while sitting at anchor because luxury doesn't stop when the engines stop. Guests expect fresh food, clean water, air conditioning, entertainment, fast internet, spotless rooms, and an endless supply of supplies. Superyacht is effectively a five-star hotel that moves, except the hotel has to carry its own building. And this leads to one of the biggest misconceptions about yacht ownership. People often assume that because the owner is incredibly wealthy, the yacht must be a smart investment. Usually, that is the wrong way to think about it. A super yacht is generally closer to a luxury consumption asset than a traditional investment. A house can potentially appreciate, a company can produce profits, stocks can generate returns. Yacht primarily produces experiences, and experiences are exactly what the owner is buying. The economics become even more interesting when depreciation enters the picture. A brand new super yacht is often customized specifically for its owner. That sounds like an advantage, but customization can make resale more difficult. The next buyer may not want your particular interior design, swimming pool configuration, cabin arrangement, or unusual features, so the yacht can lose value as it ages, and technological change can accelerate the problem. Newer yachts may have more efficient engines, modern navigation systems, improved stabilization, better environmental technology, and more desirable interiors. Suddenly, a yacht that was considered spectacular 10 years ago can begin looking old-fashioned. This creates an unusual financial combination. The yacht's owner pays millions to operate the yacht. The yacht can depreciate, and the owner may eventually have to spend millions more to modernize it. This is where refits enter the story. A refit is essentially a major renovation of the vessel. The yacht can be pulled into a shipyard, stripped apart, repaired, repainted, redesigned, and upgraded. Some refits are relatively straightforward. Others can become enormous projects. The owner might replace engines, upgrade electrical systems, redesign cabins, rebuild decks, modernize entertainment systems, install new technology, or completely transform the interior. The result can look like a new yacht, but the bill can also look like the price of a house. And there is another cost that wealthy owners rarely talk about publicly: time. A yacht sitting in a shipyard isn't being used. The owner may have paid millions for an asset that is temporarily unavailable. This is why yacht ownership is not simply about having enough money to buy the vessel. It is about having enough money to absorb inefficiency. A billionaire can tolerate a yacht sitting unused for months. For someone with less financial flexibility, the same situation can become a serious problem. This is also why the economics of superyachts are fundamentally different from ordinary boats. The wealthy aren't just buying an object, they are buying an ecosystem. There are yacht managers, brokers, shipyards, insurance companies, captains, crew agencies, designers, engineers, maintenance companies, marinas, fuel suppliers, lawyers, accountants, and specialized contractors. A single super yacht can support an entire network of businesses. And this is where the yacht industry becomes economically fascinating, because while the owner is spending money, someone else is earning it. The shipyard earns money when the yacht is built. The designer earns money creating the interior. The engine manufacturer earns money supplying propulsion systems. The marina earns money storing the vessel. The crew earns salaries. The fuel supplier earns revenue. The insurance company collects premiums. The maintenance company receives contracts. The local economy benefits when wealthy guests arrive and spend money on restaurants, hotels, transportation, entertainment, and luxury goods. So a super yacht may be financially inefficient for its owner while being economically valuable to the industry surrounding it. But what if the owner wants to reduce the cost? This is where chartering changes the equation. Some yacht owners make their vessels available for charter when they aren't using them. Instead of the yacht simply consuming money, it can generate revenue. A luxury super yacht charter can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per week, and the most exclusive vessels can command much more. At first, that sounds like the perfect solution. Buy the yacht, rent it out, let other people pay the bills. But the economics are not that simple. Charter guests are demanding. Guests mean more cleaning, more food, more fuel, more maintenance, more logistics, and potentially more repairs. The yacht may also require a professional charter management company. And then there are taxes, commissions, insurance requirements, crew costs, marketing, and downtime. So charter revenue doesn't automatically turn a yacht into a profitable investment. In many cases, it simply reduces the owner's net cost of ownership. And that distinction matters. The yacht doesn't necessarily need to make a profit. It only needs to make ownership less expensive. For some owners, that is enough. There is also a psychological reason why people buy super yachts. At a certain level of wealth, consumption changes. A person who has $10 million may think carefully about spending $5 million. A person with $10 billion can look at $100 million. Differently, the financial impact is completely different. For someone with enormous wealth, the yacht isn't necessarily competing with investments. It is competing with other forms of luxury consumption. Private jet, a mansion, a collection of cars, a private island, or simply another investment, and the yacht offers something those assets cannot. Mobility, privacy, a super yacht can turn the Mediterranean, Caribbean, Pacific, or another coastline into a private playground. You don't just visit a destination, you bring your home with you. That is the product. Privacy is another part of the economics. A billionaire staying in a luxury hotel still shares the property with other guests on a super yacht. The environment can be controlled. The guests are selected. The schedule is private. The staff is dedicated. The location can change whenever the owner wants. That privacy has enormous value to people whose public lives are constantly exposed. But the risks are equally significant. Yacht can be damaged in a storm. Mechanical failures can happen far from shore. Insurance costs can rise. Fuel prices can increase. Regulations can change. Environmental rules can become stricter. And the luxury yacht industry is highly exposed to global wealth. When financial markets collapse or geopolitical uncertainty increases, luxury purchases can slow dramatically. The yacht itself can become difficult to sell. This is one reason the second-hand market is so important. Buying a used super yacht can save an enormous amount compared with purchasing a brand new vessel, but it can also bring hidden liabilities. Older yachts may require major refits. Their engines may be approaching expensive maintenance intervals. Electrical systems can become outdated, and the previous owner's design choices may not match the new owner's preferences. So the cheap yacht can quickly become the expensive yacht. This creates a fascinating economic paradox. The most expensive yacht isn't always the yacht that costs the most to buy. Sometimes it is the yacht that appears cheap because the purchase price is only one number in a much larger equation. Imagine two owners. One buys a brand new $100 million yacht. Another buys a 15-year-old yacht for $35 million. The second owner appears to have made the smarter financial decision, but then the older yacht needs a major refit. The engines require work. The interior needs modernization. The hull needs repainting. The electronics need upgrading. Suddenly, millions more disappear. The $35 million yacht may eventually cost far more than expected. This is why experienced owners focus on total cost of ownership rather than purchase price, and total cost of ownership is the real secret behind super yacht economics. Purchase, price, crew, down fuel, maintenance, insurance, docking, food, repairs, refits, management, taxes, depreciation, and opportunity cost. That last one is easy to overlook. If someone spends $100 million on a yacht, that $100 million cannot simultaneously be invested somewhere else. If the money could have generated a return elsewhere, the economic cost of the yacht is not simply the operating expenses. There is also the return the owner gave up. For an ultra-wealthy person, this may not matter emotionally, but economically, it matters enormously. So why do people still buy them? Because the decision was never purely financial. A super yacht is not designed to maximize return on capital. It is designed to maximize freedom, privacy, status, access, and experiences, and that explains the entire industry. The owner doesn't look at the yacht and ask, how much profit will this generate? They ask a completely different question. How much is this lifestyle worth to me? That is why the super yacht market can exist despite economics that would make most investors uncomfortable. A yacht can lose value and still be valuable. It can cost millions every year and still be worth owning. It can spend months in a shipyard and still be considered a success because the product isn't the steel, the engines, or the furniture. The product is time, private time, family time, freedom from hotels, freedom from schedules, and the ability to wake up tomorrow in a completely different part of the world. That is what the owner is really purchasing. So, what does it actually cost to own a super yacht? For a vessel worth $100 million, a rough annual operating estimate around 10% could imply roughly $10 million a year, although actual costs can vary substantially. Over 10 years, that could mean around $100 million in operating expenses before considering depreciation, financing, major refits, taxes, or the original purchase price. In other words, the yacht could potentially consume an amount equal to its original purchase price again over a decade simply through ownership and operation. And that's the part most people never see when they look at a photograph of a super yacht anchored beneath a perfect sunset. The sunset is free, getting the yacht there isn't a super yacht, is one of the clearest examples of a luxury asset that doesn't need to make economic sense to be economically rational for its owner. For most people, buying one would be financially absurd. For a billionaire, it can be a carefully calculated lifestyle expense. And perhaps that is the most revealing part of the entire business. At extreme levels of wealth, money stops being used only to make more money. It begins to buy something much harder to measure. Control over time, control over space, and the freedom to turn the entire ocean into a backyard. That is the real economics of owning a super yacht.